fruit-powered muscle. I'm going to debunk some of the vegan protein myths so that you can build a strong, lean body on raw foods without obsessing about protein. Daniel Paulino here. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. So what I'm going to cover here is from a raw vegan perspective or vegan vegetarian perspective, some of the things that a lot of people are confused about, like why excess protein is not the key to building muscle growth, because a lot of people think that they have to overload on protein to build muscle. How raw foods quietly deliver the amino acids that you need, right? Because all protein comes from amino acids. All amino acids come from plants. So all protein comes from plants. So I'm going to break that down. And a simple way to feel strong, lean, and energized without having to worry about protein, tracking protein. A lot of people get caught up on that. So how did I learn about this stuff? So I used to, like every man, you want to be strong and muscular and you want to impress the ladies with your muscles and stuff like that. And so I thought that you needed to consume as much protein as possible. And so I started, working out and taking protein shakes. And what happened wasn't that, yes, I was getting bigger, but I was actually just gaining fat instead of muscle. It was a blend, right? I was getting more muscular, but the fat was outpacing it, and I was getting some inflammation in my face, right? And I didn't really notice, because from a day to day, it's really hard to notice how your body is changing unless somebody else tells you that that haven't seen you in a while, right? So I remember having a neighbor that I haven't seen in a few months, and they said, "Wow, you look different." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm over here. I started flexing. I thought maybe she had noticed my muscles and stuff like that. But the reality was, it wasn't that I was getting more muscular. She was noticing the excess fat in my face, right? My face was getting bigger, and I didn't notice until I saw a video of myself. Maybe like a year later, right? Because I had gotten off of the shakes, the protein powder, and all that stuff. Because for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling good on it, and so that's when I realized that a lot of this protein stuff is overrated. Even our fastest growth period is actually when we're just born, right? And we're supposed to eat. The ideal is breast milk. That is how nature intended. Now I know there's all these lotions and potions and all this extra stuff that people do because it's there is some difficulties to breastfeeding and that kind of stuff. But here's the interesting part: breast milk, human breast milk, has less than 2% protein. So in the period of time that people grow the fastest, they're getting the least protein. So it's actually very low protein. It's not 30% protein, not 40% protein, less than 2% protein according to a PubMed study, right? So different species, you're going to have a different percentage of breakdown when it comes to protein. Another thing that you notice is that the biggest animals, the strongest, the longest living, they are, for the most part, with the exception of some bugs and some critters that get in the way, they're plant-based, right? So you have the gorillas, the horses, the cows, the chickens, right? For the most part, they are plant-based, right? Now, sometimes you get some little bugs in there, some worms that crack in there. And so another thing that points to where we should be eating plant-based from a physiological perspective is when you look at our body, we don't have claws like carnivores do. We don't have long canine teeth, sharp and pointy like the carnivores do to tear down through flesh. We are not inspired to eat other living creatures. Like, nobody looks at a cow and says, "Wow, that looks yummy." No, we look disgusted. While on the flip side, the carnivores, they eat the animal in cold blood, no salt, no pepper, no grilling, and they also eat the bones and the blood, right? Now, us humans, for the most part, that will feel detestable to even think to do such a thing, right? To most of us, that's just how it is. We would be disgusted, repelled, but we have been programmed to think that we actually like meat, but it's because we grill it, we take out the blood, and we put vegetables on it, the seasonings, those are herbs and spices, those are actually plants. And some people think that they really like it, but what they really like is the seasoning that is put on top of it. And so that's where a lot of the confusion comes. And not only that, the other point that I was going to make is the compassion side, right? So I remember as a little boy living in a farm for a short period of time with my grandparents, and we did everything. We had all the animals, the cows, the goats, the horses, the donkeys, the chickens, the cats, and all of that. And I loved it. I loved being one with nature, planting what we eat and eating what we plant. But I remember this one time seeing my grandmother grab this chicken and just start spinning its head, choking it, and you will see the chicken just crying. Well, not really crying, but like grasping and yelling for its life, right? As it took the last moments of its life. And as a little boy, I knew that was wrong. That after the life was taken out of that chicken, and we were like removing the flesh and some of the skin, I remember just feeling like I had totally have done something wrong. It was just like a quiet, like everybody was just quiet, right? Like it was almost like a shame went through us. Maybe not for them because they was at an older age, but for me, I just remember, the sadness go through us as we saw this chicken just being murdered, right? Just the life was taken, and I knew something was wrong with that. And I had other stories. Back to the point with the protein, is that all protein comes from plant, and it's impossible to be protein deficient unless you starve yourself. If you're meeting your caloric needs from fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, it is impossible for you to be deficient in protein. It just doesn't happen. The only time that people are deficient in protein is when they're starving themselves. And so you have the other minerals and vitamins that they say, the B12, which also comes from dirt. B12 is a bacteria. And even animals are fortified with B12, right? And the animals, they eat plants, they eat the dirt and everything, and that's how they get the B12. But you don't need to kill an animal to get B12. You don't need to do that, right? There's all sorts of fortifications. There's things like nutritional yeast. There's all sorts of ways to get that kind of bacteria, which is B12 is a bacteria, really. It's like a dust comes from the ground. But you do not need to consume an animal to get the essential nutrients that the body needs to function. And this is not new. The longest living animals, the turtles, they're plant-based. The strongest, you have the elephants. The fastest, you have, like a horse. Everybody compares everything to the horsepower. I don't know if that's the fastest animal. Probably the fastest animal could probably be a hunter. That would make sense. But even the hunters, there's a purpose for it. The hunters, they look out for the weakest of the weakest. It's just a way for nature to clear out the animals that are weak and that they're in their season of dying. It's just a cleansing process that happens through nature, because the carnivores, they're looking for the easiest prey. And who are the easiest prey? The animals that are sick. They're the elderly, the seniors. They're older, and so they prey on them. And it's just a nature. That's just the way that nature works to cleanse the animal planet. But we do not need to do that. There's no reason for us to do that. And so there's plenty of evidence. Just look at the strongest, the longest living, the biggest. They're all plant-based. So Daniel Paulino here. I'll put together a free ebook, Fruit Powered Muscle, How to Build a Strong, Lean Body, Raw Foods Without Obsessing About Protein. Comment below, Fruit Powered Muscle, and I'll make sure to get it for you, or search it up on the description. It should be there.